We are going to get underway shortly. My name is Max Ortiz. I'm the Marshal of the Illinois Supreme Court. I welcome everyone. I ask you to please take a seat and quiet down. Thank you. If anyone has electronic devices that have not been silenced as of yet, please silence them. Thank you. All rise. The Honorable Supreme Court of the State of Illinois.
Mr. Marshal, the Supreme Court is convened.
Oyez, oyez, oyez. The Honorable Supreme Court of Illinois is convened for special session and installing Justice P. Scott Neville as Chief Justice of the Illinois Supreme Court.
You may be seated all. Well, welcome. Before we begin, may I introduce to you my colleagues on the Illinois Supreme Court who have joined us here today. Justice Lisa Holder-White from the 4th District, and of course you know Justice Neville, of course. Justice Joy Cunningham. And Justice Mary Kay O'Brien. The Constitution of the State of Illinois in Article 6, titled The Judiciary, Section 3 says this: the Supreme Court judges shall select a Chief Justice from their number to serve for a term of 3 years. During the Supreme Court's September 2025 term, the members of the court met and, in fact, selected unanimously P. Scott Neville, Jr. as the next Chief Justice. Now, to lead us through this exciting moment and this exciting ceremony, we will have a Mistress of Ceremonies, the Honorable Sharon O. Johnson, Justice of the Appellate Court from the 1st District. Justice Johnson.
Afternoon. First off, because the Bears won their last 4 games, right? It's a sunny, bright Friday afternoon, which means some of you might be getting a paycheck today, right? And then also, we're about to witness the installation of our next Chief Judge of the Illinois Supreme Court, Justice P. Scott Neville, Jr. What could be better than that? As stated, I'm Sharon Odin Johnson of the Illinois Appellate Court, and in the words of our Justice Neville, I count it a high honor to be your Mistress of Ceremonies. When I first met with Justice Neville regarding the program, he stated, in his own deliberate way, you have one job to do, and that is to keep the program moving. Because we don't want to make people stay here any longer than they have to. So I wore this button today. Those of you who are close can see it. And it's a reminder that says, I understand the assignment. So if you're on the program today, just know that if I happen to rush you along, blame it on the assignment and not on me. This is a full circle moment. Justice Neville was raised not far from here, and so true to his character, he thought it befitting to bring it back home, to have his installation to the highest post of the Illinois court to occur right here in Bronzeville. Some of you may not know that Justice Neville is a man of faith. However, he approaches his faith just as he approaches the law. His test for a good sermon is whether or not it satisfies his intellectual palate. Now, our first speaker served as Justice Neville's pastor for several years and always left his spiritual cup running over. Please welcome Reverend Dr. Patrick L. Damon, who is also currently my pastor at the Covenant United Church of Christ, to deliver our invocation.
Good afternoon. Would you bow with me for a word of prayer? Almighty and gracious God, you who reigns as the supreme ruler and judge of the universe and all that is, we give you thanks for this day that you have made. We rejoice and we are glad to be witnesses to this historic moment, marking the installation of the Illinois Supreme Court's 123rd Chief Justice, P. Scott Neville, Jr. We thank you that you have called your servant to this esteemed post for such a time as this, a time where the execution of righteous judgment and equal justice under the law around the nation has unfortunately become more the exception than the rule. We thank you for his family, especially for his wife, Sharon, for the tolerance and necessary sacrifices made along the journey that have made this historic moment possible. We thank you that you have given Justice Neville not only the heart to respond to the call, but strong shoulders to carry this great weight. That you have endowed him not only with comprehensive intelligence, but compassionate insight into the human condition. And so, God, as he prepares to assume this responsibility, we pray that you would stoke the fire of his imagination, that you would allow him to envision and lead an Illinois court system that will be a model framework for other states to aspire to, one that is fiercely committed to fairness for all people, regardless of economic status, social class, ethnicity, or color. May he and his colleagues across the state humbly administer justice with patience and compassion. May they be merciful to the weak and the oppressed. When the way does not seem clear, may they call upon you for divine guidance and wisdom. We pray this prayer in the name of the righteous judge, in the potent, powerful, and precious name of Jesus the Christ we do pray. And together the people said, amen.
Justice Neville attributes much of his legal career to the mentorship of the three wise men. So you may be wondering, the three wise men, well, they are Appellate Justice Glenn Johnson, for whom he clerked, Justice R. Eugene Pencham, and Justice Charles E. Freeman, our first African-American Supreme Court Justice. Our next speaker is also known for his contribution to Justice Neville's legal prowess. He's known as a legal giant across the nation. While many know Attorney James D. Montgomery Sr. as being Mayor Harold Washington's general counsel, and for his work with Attorney Johnny Cochran, he was also president of the Cook County Bar Association in 1974 when Justice Neville joined. His goal for the Cook County Bar was to have more African American judges in the circuit court. Through his work, he helped position a young Justice Neville to later become president of the Cook County Bar Association, as well as president of the Illinois Judicial Council, which is an association of predominantly Black judges, and ultimately to become a judge, justice, and now Chief Justice. Please welcome Attorney James D. Montgomery, Sr.
Thank you for that very kind introduction, and I'll excuse my voice if I would. I'm a retired litigator, and so I have reason to be hoarse occasionally. So Scott has asked me to take about 4 minutes, but I couldn't take any fewer than 10, so I hope you'll forgive me. It's not easy to chronicle the career, legal and judicial, of Chief Justice P. Scott Neville. You can certainly say that he is a man of high integrity, humility, and courage. This is apparent by his adherence to the highest and the best ideals. This is evidenced from his body of opinions as a justice of the Illinois Appellate Court over 14 years. His nomination and election to the Supreme Court of Illinois in 2018 represents the respect and the adulation of his peers. Some of his most outstanding opinions in both the appellate and the Supreme Court begin with the phrase, "I dissent." That's a strong term. That means I don't like what y'all doing. And we're going to do something else. Scott writes with great clarity and courage, often rejecting the popular or easy resolution of unpopular issues with courage, scholarship, and clarity. A young 15-year-old Black boy was held accountable in one of Scott's later cases with 2 others in the commission of a double murder in retaliation for an earlier armed robbery and theft of drugs. The 15-year-old was sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of parole. Upon his motion to reconsider his sentence and challenging the imposition of such a sentence on a kid who was only a juvenile, his sentence was vacated, and he was sentenced by that same judge to 52 years in prison. The petitioner, Marshawn Terrell Allen, appealed the denial of his motion for the further reduction of sentences, and P. Scott Neville wrote an opinion for the appellate court, joined by his 2 colleagues. And after a 19-page, well-supported opinion, the appellate court vacated the 52-year sentence, remanded the case to the trial court with directions to the chief judge of the circuit court to assign it to a different judge. Scott has advised me that as of May of 2026, Marshawn Terrell Allen will graduate as a lawyer from the Kent Law School. Perhaps one of the most disturbing aspects of the criminal justice system in Illinois is the frequency with which judges simply accept the testimony of police officers whenever a defendant challenges the voluntariness of his in-custody confession. In my 30 years of trying criminal cases, I have filed many such motions and lost most of them. Some years ago, I represented 2 Latino plaintiffs who had spent 4 to 5 years in prison on a brutal murder that they didn't commit. Of 4 arrestees, 3 confessed in writing. My confessing client couldn't read, write, understand English. Nevertheless, there was a handwritten confession written by an assistant state's attorney, a multi-page detailed signed confession initialed by my clients where so-called corrections were made to alleged mistakes. At trial, the detectives and the police officers and the assistant state's attorney all lied, while one of the real murderers testified to a detailed and different set of facts. The jury awarded the young men $7.5 million. I suggest you read the confession case that P. Scott Neville reversed while an appellate court justice. In other words, the judge in that case had already listened to all the evidence and so forth, believed everything that the policeman said, denied the motion. So you will see how the trier of fact had overlooked evidence which Scott found that's so opprobrious that he held, quote, defendant's confession was neither voluntary nor reliable, and sufficient evidence did not support his conviction, and he outright reversed his conviction. Read the opinion, People versus Jesus Sanchez. You will recall the murder of the late Laquan McDonald, a young black boy, by a police officer by the name of Jason Van Dyke in October of 2014. Van Dyke was found guilty of 16 counts of aggravated battery. He had pumped 16 bullets into the body of this young man who was doing nothing but strolling down the street. He was also charged with 1 count of second-degree murder. Judge Gauguin sentenced him to 81 months or some 7 years in prison. The state argued that he should have required a sentence. He was required to sentence Van Dyke to each of the 16 counts of aggravated battery with a firearm, which was the most serious offense, citing the People versus Lee and Crisp. Gauguin finally stated that he relied on the dissenting opinion in Lee versus the majority opinion. The state filed a mandamus proceeding seeking to compel Gauguin to sentence Van Dyke under the commands of Lee and Crisp. Supreme Court majority denied the state's motion for leave to file the petition for writ of mandamus, and of course, Justice P. Scott Neville said, I dissent. He said, additionally, this dispute clearly involves a matter of utmost importance in the administration of justice. Allowing a sentence to stand where it has been challenged as contrary to the Supreme Court precedent and contrary to statutory sentencing guidelines would lead to public contempt for and ridicule of our court system, as well as nullify our mandate under the Constitution to supervise our court system. Accordingly, I respectfully dissent. I give you our Chief Justice, P. Scott Neville.
Thank you so much. Always an education. Justice Neville is known for giving back. But I'll tell you one thing, when I have conversations with him, he never ceases to remind me of just how old I must be getting. Because he always talks about the succession plan. We cannot take these robes with us. What is the plan for when you leave the bench? But more importantly, he always talks about his plan. And he continues to pour into not only judges that are coming after him, but even college, law school, college, and high school students. One such student shadowed him one summer. Her father called Justice Neville and stated, do you mind if my daughter comes and works as your summer extern? This person happened to be the grandchild of our first African-American Supreme Court Justice, Charles E. Freeman, Sky Freeman. Justice Neville, of course, knowing that he owed a debt not just to Justice Freeman, but also just to the community and those who were coming after him. And he allowed her to come and work at the Supreme Court with him that summer. Upon her leaving, she indicated that she had every intention to follow in her father and grandfather's footsteps. Now, that might not be the same today, because you know how our young people are. They may change, and we have to let them come around to it of their own accord, make them think it's their idea. So we're still confident that eventually she's coming. She's going to succeed us. But what was important about this conversation was that Justice Neville stated that he had no doubt after that summer that she would exceed the accomplishments of both he and her grandfather. And so I invite Sky Freeman to give remarks at this time.
Good afternoon. I am honored to be here on this momentous day. My name is Sky Freeman, and for me, this day is particularly special, not only because of my experience with Justice Neville serving as his extern, but also for my personal connection with the important role that Justice Neville is assuming. You see, I'm also the granddaughter of Justice Charles E. Freeman, who, almost exactly 35 years ago, took on the role of being the first Black justice on the Illinois Supreme Court, and 7 years later, assumed the position of Chief Justice. I am proud of my grandfather's place in the Illinois Supreme Court's history, and I'm particularly gratified to see a jurist who embodies so many of my grandfather's attributes carry on the vital work that comes with the unique perspective that my grandfather had and that Justice Neville certainly has. I came to know, understand, and appreciate Justice Neville up close and personal over the summer of 2024, when, as I mentioned, I had the privilege of working as an extern in his chambers. Not only did I have the deja vu experience of walking the halls of the downtown offices of the Illinois Supreme Court, where I had often visited my grandfather, but unlike when I was a young girl, I actually had my own ID and office and the freedom to explore. Between working on thought-provoking assignments, Justice Neville invited me to attend various events with him, engage in intellectual conversations over lunch, and graciously introduced me to a variety of law professionals, many of whom had supported or worked with my grandfather when he had served on the bench. And with a simple phone call, Justice Neville arranged for me to meet and shadow over half a dozen judges in the Illinois appellate and circuit courts. But while Justice Neville thought it important that I learn about, say, domestic relations from the Honorable Yvonne Coleman, or forcible entry and detainer from the Honorable Teresa Smith Conyers, Justice Neville also put me to work doing non-legal research on a few of his important cases. It was exhilarating being a part of the behind-the-scenes process, and I was impressed with how important it is to be informed of facts and circumstances beyond black-letter law. But above all, my favorite part of my externship was our end-of-day debriefs. The justice and I would meet in his conference room, where he'd always start by asking me, "What did you learn today, Sky?" And then he would listen attentively as I recounted the day's experiences and learnings. I am now a freshman at the University of Chicago, just embarking on a journey of my own, and I have yet to decide where my studies will take me. But wherever I go, from here, I know that the foundation my grandfather, Justice Freeman, laid, coupled with the wonderful and illuminating experience I had with Justice Neville, will set me on a path that I hope and expect will live up to the enviable traits that both men represent: integrity, honesty, tenacity, humility, compassion, and courage. Justice Neville, thank you for inviting me to speak today. Congratulations on your ascension to Chief Justice. I am so excited for you and our community as you take on this elevated role. Thank you.
A further testament to the fruit of Attorney James D. Montgomery and Justice P. Scott Neville's tireless efforts to increase the diversity of our courts, the Illinois Judicial Council, which Justice Neville served as president, continues its work today, some 42 years later. Please welcome Judge Tiana Blakely, Circuit Court Judge, 6th District, and President of the Illinois Judicial Council.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Circuit Court Judge Tiana Ellis Blakely, and it is an honor to stand before you on this historic day, a day that not only celebrates individual achievement, but also reflects the steady progress of justice, representation, and hope in our state and across our nation. Today, we gather to congratulate and celebrate the appointment of the second African American Chief Justice of our state Supreme Court, Justice P. Scott Neville. An extraordinary milestone that carries deep meaning for our courts, our communities, and our collective story. Chief Justice Neville, your appointment represents far more than a personal triumph. It is a testament to years of excellence, integrity, and unwavering commitment to the rule of law. From your early days as a civil litigator, President of the Cook County Bar Association, President of the Illinois Judicial Council, Circuit Court Judge, and Appellate Court Justice, you have demonstrated not only a brilliant legal mind, but also a heart for justice, the kind that sees the people behind the case, the communities behind the policies, and the humanity behind every ruling. You stand on the shoulders of giants, those who open doors through courage and sacrifice. But what I admire about you most is that you extend that legacy by holding the door open wider for those of us who will come after you. Your leadership reminds us that justice is not static. It grows stronger when it reflects the diversity and dignity of all those it serves. As the second African American man to hold this highest judicial office in our state, you symbolize how far we've come and how much further we can go. Your presence on the bench sends a powerful message to every young person, especially young Black men who dare to dream big, that the law belongs to them too, that their voices matter, and that excellence has no color barrier. Chief Justice Neville, we celebrate your historic achievement, but more important, we celebrate your vision, one that's rooted in fairness, integrity, and compassion. May your tenure continue to strengthen public trust, elevate the standards of our courts, and remind us all that justice at its best reflects the people it serves. On behalf of everyone gathered here, congratulations on this remarkable and well-deserved honor. We are proud of you, inspired by you, and excited for more powerful dissents. We know that we can count on you to always do what's right and allow the law to catch up with you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so glad she mentioned dissents, because one thing I learned was that at the appellate court that Justice Neville stated that he had written probably as many, if not more, dissents than he did opinions. Is that correct? But I was glad he shared that with me, because as a new justice, when you come to the court, you're a little hesitant to write the dissent, to disagree. But you soon realize that you have to understand the assignment. Why are you there? You're not there to make friends, to get along, to go along to get along. You're there to administer justice, to defend the Constitution. And that is something that I strive to do, to continue to do, and that I know that Justice Neville has done during his tenure. Our next speaker, Justice Michael B. Hyman, my colleague, and I count him a friend. Justice Neville has indicated that during his time on the appellate court, that he knew he had at least two allies. One being the late Justice Shelvin Louise Marie Hall, who unfortunately we laid to rest recently. She is definitely missed. And the other, Justice Hyman. And so I have appreciated working with him as well, and it's always good to know you have at least one ally that you can pick up the phone and say, what do you think about this? And they're either going to have your back or they're going to set you straight. And so you have to appreciate that iron sharpens iron, and you need people like that on your panel, in your circle. Justice Hyman?
I concur with everything you said. In every generation, a few justices ascend to Chief Justice, where they manage the sacred purposes for which the judiciary stands. For P. Scott Neville, Jr., today has been shaped by his conscience, guided by his principles, and nourished by his belief that the rule of law, joined with integrity and understanding, advances human dignity. Chief Justice Neville has held close the lessons imparted by mentors, the three wise men that Justice Johnson referred to, Justices Johnson, Pension, and Freeman. From them, he learned that law without humanity is hollow, and that justice must reach outward to touch lives with grace and fairness. A son of Bronzeville, early on he developed a keen sensitivity for the inequities of life and to the quest for justice. He attended DuSable High School. Some of you might have done that, and you know what the motto was. The motto was peace if possible, justice at any rate. You got it. That means pursue peace, but justice always takes precedent. Peace if possible, justice at any rate. Those words settled not only in you, it settled in him. And they never left. As a lawyer, he was often reminded that indeed, justice is not a destination, it's a journey over rough terrain, and it's uphill, and yet worth every step of the climb. Chief Justice Neville is completely genuine, utterly sincere. He personifies humility, inspires by example, listens with care, and strives to unite through collaboration. In addition, those who know him can tell you that he takes his work very seriously. Himself, not so much. But that's the ideal combination for a judge. Chief Justice Neville views the law not as checkpoints, but as pathways, and follows a simple truth. The surest means to honor the law is to remember the people it protects. I think we heard that from Mr. Montgomery. Integrity has been his compass. He has shown many of us, myself among them, that a lawyer or a judge earns respect when they give respect. During the course of his practice, in more than 25 years on the bench, placing himself into the service to others has been a way of being, the hallmark of his life's work. He has unceasingly lifted his voice for inclusion and diversity, opened doors for the ignored and the powerless, and devoted himself to making the legal process both responsive and effective for all. He has mentored many lawyers and judges, myself among them. Each of us knows that in him lives the spirit of equal justice as every person's right, and that access to justice is every court's duty. Judges reflect the character of their time, and by their courage can alter it. Chief Justice Neville will summon our courts to do better, to reach for a future that reveals our highest ideals while adapting to the rapidly changing and uncertain world. We are weathering a period of division and distrust when cynicism threatens to weaken the role law plays in holding our society together. At moments like these, we need leadership committed to ensuring the public's confidence in our legal system through fidelity in its mission and an abiding recognition that justice is democracy's keeper. We have that leader, Chief Justice Scott Neville. Where others see obstacles, he sees possibilities. Where others pause at complexity, he distills opportunities. Where others say, something must be done, he says, we must do something, and he finds a way. Under Chief Justice Neville, may our courts continue to fulfill their sacred purposes, to bridge the distance between the written law and the lived experience, to be fair when life is not, and to pursue truth as a measure of justice. Through Chief Justice Neville's leadership, sustained by his steady resolve and steadfast vigilance, the cause of justice will rise to meet the demands of our time as it must.
Thank you so much, Justice Hyman. Some of us on the court call him the conscience of the court. Thank you. I was informed that Mayor Brandon Johnson has joined us. Thank you. Thank you for coming. It reminds me of days when I was practicing and I was rushing into court and came in and said, whew, court is still in session. So I just want to thank you for joining us, yes. Last but not least is probably the person that knows Justice Neville almost as well as his wife, Sharon Neville. Florice Neville Ewell. They come from a very competitive family, as I've come to learn. Justice Neville admits that Florice has far exceeded him academically. Unlike their siblings, Florice was the only one that had the privilege of attending private school. The rest of them had to attend public school right in the Bronzeville area. Unlike Justice Neville, she went on to Yale Law School, which he counted as a victory, and she had surpassed him yet again. When she was applying to Yale, Justice Neville was clerking with Justice Johnson. Another clerk at the time indicated that he often interviewed candidates for Yale Law School. And Justice Neville, just as he does, he said, "Hey, well, my sister's interested. Would you be willing to interview her?" Which he did. Upon learning that she also spoke French, he thought, "Oh, I'll test her," and began to speak French to her, to which she replied, as she too was fluent, and conducted the entire interview in French. Needless to say, she was admitted to Yale. However, Justice Neville also considered this as her one-upping him again. Now, don't shoot the messenger, but I happen to know that he's wondering, how are you going to top this? Please welcome Florice Neville Ewell.
I'm in awe of this, and I must be appropriate. May it please the court. I must also be fairly formal. And must begin by thanking Bishop and Dr. Horace Smith, the shepherd of this transformative church, Apostolic Faith Church. For even though we're having a court proceeding, we are in this edifice. So thank you, Bishop, for opening the doors and allowing our family and friends to celebrate our brother's new assignment as Chief Justice of the Illinois Supreme Court. And it's so ironic because that theme of suggesting that he has an assignment is not one that we discussed, but truly that is the case. So technically, Scott's ascent begins today, October 23rd, 2025. However, as reflected in this exhibit that I would like to offer to the court, the dream that laid the foundation for this assignment actually began on August 3rd, 1962. That was the day that our father, P. Scott Neville Sr., submitted a candidate statement with the Better Government Association to declare his interest in becoming a municipal court judge. In that capacity, at that time, had he won the election, he would have been a judge in one of the lower courts in Cook County. At that juncture, our father had been in private practice for 30 years and wanted to pivot from the practice to the bench. Now, I'm a corporate lawyer, but at some point might try and pivot. But notwithstanding Dad's plans, he passed away from a massive heart attack within months after submitting that application. Well, that was that same year. And who did he leave but 6 children and our mother, Alice Dempsey Neville, who faithfully and gracefully remain solely in charge, and I do mean in charge, but with assistance from our maternal grandmother, Eva Flanagan Dempsey. Yet today we must say, truly, in this edifice, in this place, look at God. "63 years later, Dad's namesake, our brother Scott, is fulfilling Dad's dream through this ultimate assignment, having the honor of serving our great state as the Chief Justice of the Illinois Supreme Court. As his siblings, we know that he has done and will continue to do an outstanding job because of our upbringing. There was no other choice. Notably, in this context, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. believed that the moral arc of the universe bends toward justice. As Scott has said, the quote encapsulates his belief that a judiciary effectuates the arc by displaying fairness and setting a goal of excellence. However, beyond the pageantry and accolades that adorn this service, let me repeat that. Beyond the pageantry and accolades that adorn this service, given the discussions we had around the dinner table collectively and one-on-one with either or both parents before and after our father's transition, I know that our parents, P. Scott Neville, P. Scott Neville Sr. and Alice Dempsey Neville would want us to take a moment to do more. Much more than just celebrate this event. Having infused us with faith, determination, and an understanding of the importance of looking beyond ourselves. We were taught to help others. And our parents would also want this moment to be an opportunity to simultaneously encourage the next generation or those who dare to dream. So, for our youth or for adults from all backgrounds, genders, and ethnicities who are hopeless or think that they are dreaming impossible dreams, stay faithful. Let me repeat that in this house. Stay faithful and in hot pursuit, because Justice Neville's ascent today is the manifestation of a dream deferred, yet realized. Stated simply, this moment now becomes another exhibit that I offer before this court in history, evidencing that with God and through God, let me repeat that, with God and through God, all things are possible. So again, thank you to Bishop Dr. Smith and the Apostolic Faith Church family for helping us to celebrate this moment. And on behalf of our family, represented to my right, special thanks to all of you for taking the time to attend. Thank you so much.
Well now, res ipsa loquitur, it speaks for itself. Amen and amen. All right. So now for the time, the moment that has called us all here today, the moment we've been waiting for, the administering of the oath by the Honorable Mary Jane Theis, followed by closing remarks of our new Chief Judge, P. Scott Neville, and the unveiling of the court portrait.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, P. Scott Neville, Jr.,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Illinois
Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Illinois
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability. Thank you very much, but please be seated. To the shepherd of the Apostolic Faith Church, Bishop Horace Smith and his First Lady, Susan Smith, thank you for being such gracious hostess. To the members of the judiciary, to the members of the other branches of government, to all my other friends and relatives, thank you for being here. I have to start my remarks with a thank you to our former Chief Justice of the Illinois Supreme Court, Mary Jane Theis. She has served the state of Illinois for 42 years and for 3 years as chief, as an excellent chief. Give her another round of applause. But I also have to thank my colleagues on the Supreme Court. Each of you brings experience that strengthens our decisions and the public's faith in the rule of law. Thank you. Justice Theis started with a quote from the Illinois Constitution. In fact, she quoted Article 6, Section 3, and explained that it provides that every 3 years there's a change in chief. But there's another part that's equally important. It also provides that you can't become chief unless there's a vote, and it takes a minimum of 4. Well, she's already reported that I was unanimously voted to become the next chief of the Illinois Supreme Court. So I have to thank my colleagues again, all of them. But you know, this work doesn't get done just by the chief. The AOIC director and the judicial branch employees provide invaluable service. The members of the more than 36 committees, commissions, and task forces, I have to thank them for their commitment and for working every day to improve the quality of justice in our state. My staff, the administrative assistant, and my 4 law clerks, without them I could not exist on the Supreme Court. Thank you. But there's other support that the Supreme Court has. The Supreme Court has a house staff. We live in the court. And maybe some of you will be surprised. We have a house mother. And she takes very good care of us and makes us all believe that we're her special child. So Mary, John, Wanda, I certainly thank you for your service in advance, because I know what a difference you make to the Illinois Supreme Court. But I want to remind everybody that what sustains the judicial branch is the members' collective dedication to keep Illinois' legal system functioning and on course every day. From every courtroom to the Supreme Court itself, the progress of the judicial branch has always depended on 2 things. A, doing the work well, and B, doing it together. As Chief Justice, I intend to build on that excellence and collaboration, and to carry us forward and earn the confidence of those who depend on us. In these times, and I want to emphasize that, in these times, we must work to restore the public trust, because it's the lifeblood of the judiciary. We earn trust through fairness and respect, but we must also maintain it by remaining open, by informing and educating litigants, as well as the public, about the court's work and purpose. Justice Freeman once quoted Thurgood Marshall. Marshall said, "We must never forget that the only real source of power that we as judges can tap is the respect of the people." You know, it's often been said that you don't go on a trip without a plan. And I have a plan for the next 3 years, and it's called the Supreme Court Strategic Agenda. The 2025-2028 Supreme Court Strategic Agenda represents a shared vision. A vision from judges, clerks, administrators, lawyers, and community partners statewide. It's a roadmap for how we serve together. Its 5 goals capture the heart of the agenda: safeguarding fairness and removing barriers to justice, modernizing case flow through technology and efficiency, strengthening professionalism, fairness, and well-being, making the court's work visible and understandable, sustaining courts through fair funding and responsible stewardship. Collaboration underlies all progress. It unites judges and lawyers, legal organizations and educational institutions, the legislature and executive branches, county and local government, community and civic groups, and above all, it unites the people of Illinois. The judiciary stands beside, not above, other branches. I'm going to repeat that. The judiciary stands beside, not above, other branches. Independent in judgment, but united in purpose. Excellence is the habit of improvement, and our agenda will turn excellence into action across the judicial branch. Technology expands access, but must remain a tool, not a master. The rule of law cannot be delegated to an algorithm, and human judgment cannot be automated. The new strategic agenda calls for an ethical framework for AI and data governance. Illinois will use technology to assist, never to replace, judicial reasoning. I'm going to repeat that. Illinois will use technology to assist, never to replace, judicial reasoning. Every innovation must preserve privacy, accountability, and fairness. During my work as a lawyer, and during my time as a judge, as has already been explained, I have always attempted to assist the left out, the down and out. And you know why? It's because I grew up right here in Bronzeville. I know those people so well. So I've set 2 goals that I must accomplish during my term as Chief Justice. First, to work with the legislature and governor to ensure that the State Public Defender Act is implemented so defendants all over the state will receive the kind of adversarial testing contemplated by the 6th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Second, the Illinois Supreme Court acknowledges that in 70% of all civil cases, litigants are self-represented. You know that old adage, a person who represents himself has a fool for a client. But self-represented litigants have no choice. I vow to provide self-represented litigants with pro bono counsel. I hope to convince my colleagues to make pro bono representation incentivized by providing CLE credit. Self-represented litigants must receive the justice they deserve, not the justice they can afford. I made the decision to have my investiture in Bronzeville because I didn't get to the Illinois Supreme Court by myself. I grew up less than 4 blocks from here, maybe we should say 6. It's already been reported that this area is called Bronzeville. Tim Black, a black historian, maintains that Bronzeville is sacred ground. You know, my grandmother used to always say, there's no place like home. I don't think I could be any more comfortable than being here in Bronzeville to accept the charge of becoming the next Chief Justice of the Illinois Supreme Court. I don't need to remind all of you, but some, that 43rd Street is on the rough side of this affluent society's mountain. But for those who aspire to do great things, remember, that pressure on the rough side of the mountain can turn a lump of coal into a diamond. As my sister has already reported, next time I'll have to consider whether I'll let her speak before I do. My mother and father were the foundation for my success. My father, being a lawyer, was my inspiration for becoming a lawyer. My mother was a teacher. She told her 6 children to remove the word can't from their vocabularies. She told us there was nothing we could not do. So here you see me, the new Chief Justice, because my mother always told me, yes, you can. The teachers at Forestville Grammar School and DuSable High School are also a part of that foundation for my success. You know, you can't build a building if it doesn't have a good foundation. And I am pleased to report that 2 of my teachers from DuSable High School have traveled all the way from Florida to see me sworn in as the next Chief Justice. Of course, you can't go to law school unless you graduate from college. Culver Stockton College was a part of my success. And of course, you can't be a licensed lawyer unless you go to law school. And I got my law degree from Washington University School of Law. But my mistress of ceremonies has already reported to you that my success must also be attributed to 3 wise men. Justice Glenn Johnson, Justice Glenn Johnson made me the first black man to ever clerk for an Illinois appellate court justice in the 1st District, and that started me on this journey of being an appellate lawyer. Justice R. Eugene Pincham, his reputation precedes him. But he got me involved in some cases that have been monumental. We filed the 1991 city remap case, complaining about the fact that there were more blacks in the city of Chicago than whites. Nevertheless, black people had fewer wards. We won the case, but we lost the battle. Because after we won the case and they added an additional 2 wards, they tore down all the public housing. I was also involved in some litigation with Justice Pincham, where he represented the legislators in Springfield who were very concerned because it was very difficult for black lawyers to become judges. He advised those legislators. They created and promulgated the sub-circuit legislation, and the rest is history. After the legislation went into effect in 1992, by 2000, there were enough African American and Latino lawyers elected to elect Tim Evans as Chief Judge. But maybe the most important wise man to my career was Justice Charles Freeman. I always thought I was a pretty good lawyer, but none of those judges sitting on the Supreme Court would appoint me. When Justice Freeman ascended to the Supreme Court, he appointed me to the Circuit Court. 3 years later, 3.5 years later, he elevated me to the Appellate Court. After being elected to the Appellate Court in 2012, Justice Freeman called me one morning in 2018 and asked the question. Now, I was there early because I wanted to get there for our oral arguments. I'm sitting in my chambers about 8:30 in the morning, and Justice Freeman calls me, and he says, "Scott, how would you like to be on the Supreme Court?" Now, for those of you who know me, I generally take things under advisement. But that was one day when I said to Justice Freeman, I said, "The pension people just called me. My pension is vested. I can come today." Well, ultimately, those who subsequently became my colleagues on the Supreme Court, they had a choice of 24 appellate court justices to bring to the Supreme Court. But it's already been reported to you that I dissent all the time. But I always like to say, when I'm not before a big audience, that the court in its wisdom voted to bring me to the Supreme Court, and the rest is history. You know, we may disagree about a lot of things, but we didn't disagree about my being elevated. Back to this speech, I want everybody to be reminded that I'm wearing a robe today. Remember that the robe is a symbol of neutrality. It means I agree to consider all sides of the dispute. Finally, I agree to make all my decisions based on careful consideration of the facts and the law. I also took an oath today. That oath is a promise. I want you to know that I will not break the promise I made to the people of the state of Illinois. One, to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Illinois. And two, to faithfully discharge the duties of Supreme Court Justice. The Constitution will be my North Star. Illinois courts must uphold the rule of law. Aristotle said, law is order, and good law is good order. John Locke said, wherever law ends, tyranny begins. When laws bend to a particular political ideology, that means the law applies to some but not others, or the law serves the convenience of those in authority, the stability of a free society becomes at risk. Both the judiciary and the public share responsibility for sustaining the rule of law. I'm going to repeat that. Both the judiciary and the public share the responsibility for sustaining the rule of law. For the judiciary, it is to apply the law fairly. For the public, it is to honor the legal process and insist that the government operate within constitutional bounds. The strength of a nation governed by law is that the results flow from principle, not passion. I'm going to repeat that. The strength of a nation governed by law is that results flow from principle, not passion. So long as we, the people, choose to live by the rule of law, the founders of this fragile experiment in representative government will endure. You know, probably the most difficult thing I have done was to campaign against 5 appellate court justices when I ran for the Illinois Supreme Court in 2020. My bride, Sharon Neville, has been so critical to my success and the wind beneath my wings. Her campaigning made the difference in my 2012 appellate court race. Now, notice what I said. I said it made the difference. But her campaigning was determinative and took me over the top in the 2020 Supreme Court race. I will never forget being admonished by my wife because I was not shaking every hand in the room. But thank God, she was there and she took care of it. And you see, the thing that made the campaign so difficult was there was one candidate who, on the day he filed the papers to form his political action committee, he had $3 million. During my entire campaign, I never had more than $500,000. But guess what? Growing up poor, I knew how to do more with less. You know, my sister touched on being in this beautiful edifice. And as the chief spokesperson for the Illinois Supreme Court, I have to state that there is a separation between church and state. But let's make no mistake about it. I recognize, ladies and gentlemen, that I'm on the Supreme Court and I'm the Chief Justice, but I'm not the Supreme Justice. I am clear on who I am and whose I am. To those of you who spoke today, Thank you for your generous words. To my wife, my family, my friends and staff, thank you for your faith and support. Through excellence and collaboration, our legal system in Illinois will remain independent, fair, and faithful to the people we are sworn to serve. I will never forget that I'm a public servant. I work for you. Let us also not forget Martin Luther King's words, repeated so many times this afternoon. The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice. The court under my leadership will continue to fight to bend that moral arc towards justice. I want to thank everyone for attending my investiture. And once again, special thanks to Bishop Smith and the First Lady, Susan Smith, for permitting the court to use this beautiful edifice. But you know, at the end of the day, it's His amazing grace that brought me to this place that I am right now. His amazing grace. So I'm going to take my seat. My colleagues were advising me that I better not speak too long. I told you it takes 4 votes to get a decision, but I want you to know I have experience. There are 5 women on the Supreme Court. I grew up in a family where I had 4 sisters, a mother and a grandmother, and they were in charge. So I've already had a little training on how to find common ground with women, but I do want them to know that I look forward to working with them. But thank you again for coming. And we're now going to move to that part of the program where we are going to unveil my portrait.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know, my name is Sharon Neville, and my husband is Chief Justice P. Scott Neville, Jr. It is customary for each Chief Justice to choose an artist to paint their portrait, which will be displayed in Springfield and at the Bolandic Building. We are honored to have with us today the artist that Scott and I commissioned to paint Chief Justice Neville. I would like to tell you a little bit about her before we unveil the portrait. Her name is Mary Chen, and Mary, would you join me? Mary Chen grew up in Shanghai, China. Her artistic interests developed into a genuine artistic drive. So after high school, she chose to follow a career path in the States studying fine art. After graduation from Brigham Young University, Mary moved to Chicago. She has been living and working here since. It was facial expression and the psychology that goes with it that drew Mary to the arts. She learned the powerful methods of Repin and other Russian masters through studying the structure of human anatomy. Her style is not classical, it's not interpretive, but rather is semi-impressionistic. For Mary, each new model opens a new window. Her goal is to never select the pose, but to let the pose select itself. She often uses sketches and photo references to develop her finished paintings. But for her, painting from life is always the ultimate objective. And now, please join us in the reveal.
Now, my last official act before this special session of the court is adjourned is to call Bishop Horace E. Smith for the benediction.
Good afternoon. You've heard my name called countless times today, and let me reveal to you what most pastors know, that the people behind the real power here that have welcomed you and made this possible, it's not me, it's my wife, Sister Susan Davenport Smith, and there's about 150 volunteers who have worked with the Nevilles. It was so easy to work with them. They are a delightful number of people, and so this church is open to them. I will say this as we close the benediction. We've heard it said over and over again, we're living in very difficult times. But I wonder if there's anyone here who has not been aware of the spirit in this place. And the words said by so many of you, his sister especially, have reminded us that the words of faith are not empty words. And they are intended for times like these. And so I tell my church all the time that one of the things I learned from my pastor, when you sit in a seat like this, and when you hear words like this, you become responsible to go beyond simply the investiture, which was magnificent, but that we all have a responsibility that is really driven by something bigger than us. And so I have been encouraged today by the words of so many of the speakers. I wish I could take all of these and play them over and over again to our young people and to our officials and to those that care for people, that these kinds of services give us what I think we have almost lost from COVID to now. We have lost our sense of common humanity. We've forgotten who we really are. The Bible says from one blood he made us all, put us on one planet in a magnificent universe. We must learn to work together. Let me now give the benediction. A benediction is a word that sends you on your way, and the greatest one in the Bible is this one, and I share it with you no matter what your faith may be. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance, the Hebrew word is panim, upon you and your family and your friends, and give you peace, well-being of body, soul, and spirit. God bless you in his name.
Mr. Marshall, this special session of the Illinois Supreme Court for the investiture of Justice P. Scott Neville, Jr. is adjourned.
rise. The Supreme Court of Illinois Special Session and Investiture of Chief Justice P. Scott Neville is adjourned.
Here. Oh. I guess people